Welcome to the Wisdom of the Body Summit, an online event to align with your body's intelligence for healing, optimal living, and spiritual awakening. Brought to you by Sounds True. Throughout this summit, 32 experts will share practical tools and breakthrough insights that have emerged from the convergence of science and time-honored perspectives from the world's spiritual traditions. As we learn to recognize and honor the incredible wealth of knowledge that lies within our bodies, we can begin to listen and attend to ourselves more fully, opening a doorway to greater health and well-being. Hi, everybody. Today, I'm excited to welcome author and creator of Energy Medicine Yoga, Lauren Walker. For this session, Lauren's going to be discussing, can the wisdom of the body change the world? Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you. It's good to be here. So I guess I'll just dive right in. It is a question, can the wisdom of the body change the world? And I think I want to start with the wisdom of the body can help you heal yourself and help you change your own body and your own physiology. And with that, I'm going to explain as we get in a little more how that can help and change the world. I'm going to give you, when we get to the end, a really simple 3-step process to answer any question that you might have about anything with the wisdom of the body. And then raise your courage so that you can act on that wisdom. Because I think that's a really important part, especially in today's world, to have the courage to do the right thing, especially when it comes to the right thing for ourselves. So the body speaks to us all the time, and a lot of my work is teaching about the language of the body. The body speaks in pulses, in sensation, in heat. It speaks in dreams and intuitions, and it's giving us constant guidance if we just learned how to tune in and listen to that guidance. And so that's the direction that I want to go in, is to understand how we can tap in really easily to that guidance. And it was so interesting when I was invited to be part of this summit. The topic is so juicy, the wisdom of the body. And immediately I just started thinking about all of these things in the body that is so incredible. The ability for the body to heal. You cut your skin and it heals itself. You cut a bone or you break a bone, and if you put the bone together in the right way, it melds itself together. And Western medicine still doesn't know how that works. It is the wisdom of the body. And you think about things like reproduction. The largest cell in the body and a smallest cell in the body, so that's the egg and the sperm, it's the largest and the smallest cell in the body. They meet, they, through nuclear fusion, become one cell and then create an entire human being. And all the mother has to do is go through her life and eat and do a little exercise and get fresh air, and her body knows how to create a human being. I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing. And even things like, to me, the most mind-blowing thing is the placebo effect, the ability for the body to heal itself with a simple directive of the mind, taking a sugar pill. Just the belief that you can heal the body. So I started going down all these pathways and thinking about what I really wanted to talk about. And then I went and saw a healer friend of mine who does craniosacral work, and she's one of the most powerful healers that I know. And I said, this is coming up and this is what I'm thinking about. And she said something that just sparked me. She said, the wisdom of the body is in the fields. And I just had a moment, like a lightning bolt struck me. The wisdom of the body is in the fields. So I want to unpack that a little bit, because that only makes sense if you know what the body is and if you know what fields are. So let's break that down a little bit. What is the body? It seems like this physical thing of substance and power and strength. And really, it's made of tissues, which are made of cells, which are made of molecules, which are made of atoms, which are made of space. Atoms are 99.99% empty space, which means that your physical body is mostly empty space. It is just vibration and sound and light. The tiniest thing that there is in the universe is called a Planck oscillator. And the universe is made of these, we can't even wrap our minds around how small they are. It's hard enough to think about how small an atom is. But when you think about a Planck oscillator, it makes an atom look like the size of the Earth. And truly, that's the differential. And so these little Planck oscillators are little oscillating, moving, vibrating bits of information. And that is what we are made of and the universe is made of. These are fields of information. And the only reason that we feel solid is because of these electron fields that repel each other when we come close to touch them. The only reason we look physical is because of the reflection of light off the body. So it's really an illusion that we are a physical substance or that anything, this desk, the computer that you guys are all looking at this program through, none of it is physical matter. So what are fields? So you know about magnetic fields. They're in and surround a magnet and they affect things in their vicinity. You know about gravitational fields, that they're in and around every object, and you can see how gravity works. You let something go, it falls down, it has a gravitational field. But we are surrounded by fields that have information and from which we arise. And these Planck oscillators are kind of the substrate, if you will, of where everything arises from. So this can seem kind of very esoteric. So I want you to imagine yourself in the ocean. You're surrounded by this substance. You're surrounded by water. And if you look off into the distance, you can see your friend swimming nearby, and she's in that same substance as you. Even though she's not close enough to touch, you can see her. And if you kick your feet in the water, you can see how it spreads ripples around you. And if somebody pours something into the water, you can maybe see the color of it until it starts to dissipate and get less and less. And that is really what it is to be in a field. And a lot of quantum theory and quantum dynamics is based on these liquid field dynamics because they operate in a very similar way. So we are really in this soup all of the time. It's just that we're on dry land, so it feels like I stop here and everybody else starts where they start. But the truth is, we are all swimming in this ocean of vibration and information and energy. And in the work that I do, energy medicine yoga, we work with the energy fields of the body. So just like you have the physical systems of the body, you have your blood, you have your bones, your muscles, the skin, all of these different systems, physiological, we have energy systems that actually precede the physiological systems. So we work with 9 different energy systems of the body. And all of those energy systems are also fields of information. And so one of the easiest ones to think about, which is now, and I love this, I'm a real science junkie. I love that science, Western science, has finally agreed and proven that we have what's called an aura. They didn't like that word. It's a little too woo, so they call it a biofield. But there's an actual field that surrounds the body, and it's kind of like your spacesuit. It protects you, but it also allows beneficial energies to come in. And what's interesting about the biofield or the aura is that all of your experiences are in that field before they come into the physical body. So again, there is this information field from which then the physical field arises. And so we have this opportunity to affect things before they come into physical form. So you're affected by these fields, and you also have the ability to affect them. What's also fascinating about these fields and these tiniest bits of vibrating information, these Planck oscillators, is that the whole universe is holographic. In other words, in one small piece of information, all of the information of the universe exists. And this is another thing, along with the tiniest bits, it's hard for the brain to grok, to really understand how is that possible. And what I love, and I'm a layman scientist, so I'm not good at math, and I didn't study those sort of things. But I love reading about the brilliant scientists who do know and understand and can work out these complex equations. And one of my favorite scientists is Nassim Haramein. He's a physicist who has done these incredibly exquisite and complex equations, proving this holographic nature of the universe in very, very precise mathematics. So this is the kind of stuff where you start to really understand this is beyond, my tradition is yoga, and the sages in the yoga world have been telling us this forever, that we are all connected and that the information is all there available. And then we have the scientist like Nassim who comes around and he says, that is true. And let me write the math to show you how that's true. So, we're going to talk about how we can tap into that field of information. So we think that we make decisions in the brain, that we generate our personalities and who we are and our ego, and it all comes from inside your brain and your mind. But again, more and more science is proving that we are more like receptors or antennas than we are generating this information. We're actually receiving this information. You are tuning in to the personality of who you are. When you're trying to remember something that happened to you in the past, you're not going through some filing system in the frontal lobe or over in a different quadrant of the brain. They haven't been able to find where one memory is stored. Is it over here? And they've done crazy experiments to try to find out where memories are stored in the brain, and they simply cannot. And what it's turning out to be is that we are tuning in to our memories, which are held in the information fields. And another one of my favorite scientists is Rupert Sheldrake, who talks about and is the progenitor of the theory of morphic resonance. And what morphic resonance is, or these morphic fields, are self-similar fields of habit and patterns in biological systems. And this theory of morphic resonance is proving how successive generations learn things faster and easier than generations before them, and how we can tune in to our own memories and collective memories. It's even sort of proving things that, again, Western medicine doesn't have an answer for. Things as simple as back to that embryo that's becoming a human being inside the mother's womb. Western science doesn't know how a stem cell becomes a liver cell or an eyeball cell or a blood cell. There's no mechanism to explain that. But morphic resonance explains that because the cell structure and the embryo is actually tuning in to the morphic resonance of a human being. And just like a little oak tree will tune into the morphic resonance of an oak tree, and it finds that information and then develops along that pathway. It's fascinating work. And if you've never read or listened to any of Rupert's work, I encourage you to check him out. He's really quite brilliant. We tune in as well to collective events and things that have so much power. You think about going to ceremony or ritual, whether it's in organized religion or even just ceremony and ritual that we do in sort of the non-religious world, things like weddings or even funerals. And sometimes those take place in religions and sometimes they don't, but you're tuning into a resonance of a history of love or understanding a passing of a human being. And so we tune in and really tap into these emotional components. It's really very powerful. And what's exciting to me is that this is available to us all the time. So we walk around and we're thinking, oh, how am I going to figure this out in my life? Or how am I going to know the next thing to do here? But we are swimming in these fields of information. And so when we get to the end of this talk, I'm going to explain to you how easy it is to tap right into these fields. So we're getting this idea now that the world, the universe is a living field, and your actions matter. So remember being in the ocean. If you kick wildly and start splashing around, people are going to move away from you, right? And if you start to make little swirls of little whirlpool movements toward yourself, you might see little feathers start to come towards you, little shells in the water, things on the surface start to move towards you. Or if you start to swim just really smoothly and gracefully and really joyfully, maybe a pod of dolphins is going to start swimming next to you and join in that emotion and energy. And maybe you're going to just lay your hands out in front of you and hold them out and support somebody else who doesn't know how to swim yet, and hold them buoyantly onto the surface. So you have an effect on your surroundings, for better or for worse. And so it was really interesting. I was filming an online course with Donna Eden, who's my teacher, and she is an incredible healer and visionary and actually sees energy. So she's a really cool person to talk to when you're trying to understand these fields and what's going on energetically. So we were filming this energy medicine yoga class, and I wanted to know what she was seeing when we were doing yoga together, specifically this kind of energy medicine yoga. So she saw us all practicing, and at first we were all on, each of us on our mats, and she could see our own energy fields intrinsic to ourselves. And then as we started to practice, these fields started to get bigger and kind of move around, and slowly they started to interconnect and become this sort of blanket that covered all of us in this incredibly beautiful aura of energy. It started to shift its colors and pulsations. It had all of these figure 8 patterns, which is the most healing pattern of the energy systems. And it had swirls and spirals, and it was pulsing purples and blues as all of our energy started to merge together and entrain with each other. So I kind of knew that that was going to happen. I mean, I'm a yoga teacher. I've been teaching energy medicine yoga for a long time, and I know the feeling that I get when I'm in a room practicing. So that I thought was really cool. But what was even cooler was that she said she could see this aura, this blanket, this healing blanket of purple pulsating healing energy. It went not only over all of us, but it went over the cameraman and the sound man and the makeup artist and the producer and the director and the assistant and the people that were watching. This field covered all of them. And then Donna had to leave before the class was over, and she went outside and she could see the field extending beyond the building, spilling out into the San Diego downtown street and covering the passersby in this pulsing, vibrating field of healing energy. That blew my mind. It was like, this is how powerful energy can be when we come together. This is why things are called movements. When people come together with a positive, strong idea and start to bring their actions and minds together, we create movements. So this is what Rupert's talking about when he's talking about the morphic fields. These are fields of movement, and they're also called fields of habit. So there's an energy system that keeps your habits in place. And in biological systems in the world, we have this thing that's called the conservation of habits, right? So you never go outside and see deer like jogging to keep in shape, right? Deer use as little energy as they can to survive. So they walk around and they're constantly eating. And then if something comes and triggers them and they run, they expend an enormous amount of energy to get away from a conflict. And then they stop and they check out, are they safe? And they shake off all of that energy and they go back to eating their grass again. So they're not like, keeping in shape and weightlifting and doing all the things that we do, sort of expending our energy. nature has a conservation of habit and conservation of energy. So what that means, though, is that it can be difficult to change a habit because your energy systems don't want you to change. Even if you're changing for the good, your energy systems don't care. They don't really care if you're going to go on a raw juice fast or if you're going to take a spiritual quest and things are going to be better for you. All your energy systems know is, in the moment, I'm good, I'm alive, everything's fine. There's no need for anything else. So why are you giving me wheatgrass? So your body just really resists anything that to change. So in order to change a habit, you need a stimulus. And usually that stimulus needs to come from imagination. So again, we come into this idea of how we can tap into these fields to get this new direction, this new idea. And if you think about movements over history that have really changed things, it starts with a new idea, like, hey, maybe women should be able to vote. So somebody had that idea and then talked to a couple of her girlfriends and said, hey, do you think that women should be able to vote? And they're like, you know what? Yeah, why don't we vote? And little by little, this idea took over. It became a morphic field, and it had enough critical mass, which is the next thing that you need to change a habit. So you need to either have a strong enough internal will, if it's with you personally, or there needs to be a critical mass of people. And you see that with the women's marches that are happening now, and all of the women that just ran and won their races. There was this critical mass that shifted the paradigm. So it's hard to change, and we want to change. You guys are watching this talk now, and some of you are thinking, this is awesome. She's going to teach me this energy thing to get my energy aligned. I'm going to do this every single day. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to get healthy and strong. I'm going to be awesome. I'm so excited for this. And then maybe 2 or 3 hours later, tomorrow, you're going to hear another talk, and you're going to be like, oh, and all of a sudden you switch your attention to that, or you go to sleep and you wake up the next morning and you go to work, and all of a sudden you forgot that, and a week later you're like, I thought I was going to change something. What was that even? I can't remember what I was even thinking of changing. So in order to change things, we have to change. In order to change, we have to change. So we're going to do this right now. And I've been calling it as a little bit of an homage. I really like to bow down at the feet of my teacher. And so I've been calling it this applied morphic resonance. So Rupert Sheldrake teaches us about these fields. And then along with Donna's work, I'm going to show you how to change these fields, applied morphic resonance. So this first thing that I'm going to share with you is called the temporal tap. And this is a way for you to essentially insert a new habit into the hard drive. So the reason that habits are difficult to change is we have this field that keeps them to us, and most of the things that we do are in the unconscious mind. So we are habitual beings. You probably don't need to wake up in the morning and remember what your things are that you do. You wake up and maybe you go sit in meditation, then you brush your teeth, or maybe you do it the opposite way, and then you go maybe make a cup of coffee, or what we do here at our house in the morning. One of us wakes up, one of us builds the fire because it's freezing cold here in the winter, and one of us gets to sit in meditation. I won't say who does which. And then we go forward, but it's never a question of what's going to happen. It's a habit of how the days progress. And so when we do this temporal tap, what we're doing is putting a new habit into the hard drive, which is the intuitive nature that you just automatically do, right? And so what this tap does is it stops the flood of information. So when you're walking through the world, even though you're not conscious of it, your unconscious is taking in millions and millions of bits of that informational field all the time. So you're conscious, I think you take in about 40 pieces of information per second. So the temperature of the room, outside my window it's snowing, I have the desk closed so I can't see the mess on my desk. Like I can see, 40 things going on. But my unconscious mind has millions of things, of bits of information that it's taking in. So we do this temporal tap, we suspend those millions of bits of information, and we put in one thing into the hard drive of your unconscious and set it in there. So let's do that right now. So think of something that you want to insert into your unconscious. And it can be anything, small or large. And I've got a lot of other programs that if you want to get kind of deeper into how you can really change things and manifest things, because again, this is a way to start to manifest things in your life. But let's just think of a habit right now. And it could be as simple, this is one I've been teaching a teen class. And what I like to do is that they give themselves a compliment, because in the teenage years, it can start to be where you're not feeling so great about yourself. And then I see that when I see everybody come to my yoga class in their 20s and 30s and 40s and even 50s and 60s and 70s, where they're still having that negative self-speak. So I like to just start the temporal tap, just giving yourself a compliment. So you're going to do it in the present tense as if it is true. So if you're struggling with loving yourself or saying something good about yourself, then start with something that's achievable. So I like myself. I'm happy today. I feel great. I'm strong in my body. Something like that, something that feels good to yourself. And what you're going to do is you're going to tap from the temple over, it's the temporal bone. It's about an inch and a half above the ear. And you're going to tap from the front to the back. And you're going to tap with enough pressure that you get a little bit of a bounce off your fingers. And we're going to do both sides at the same time. So let's start. So make sure you've got your phrase that you're going to say. And then we'll tap, take a nice deep breath, and tap front to back. And then take another breath. And exhale. Okay. So maybe some of you had as your new habit that you do the practices in this lecture. So remember, when you're doing the temporal tap, to make that in the present tense. So don't have your phrase be, I'm going to do the practices in this lecture, because then you are always going to be doing them, but you never actually do them. Make your phrase be, I do every day the practices in this lecture. And so it brings it right into the present tense, because the unconscious doesn't have a past or a future. Okay. So you can tap into your fields and you can change a habit. Awesome. Now you need to learn to ask the right questions to get the right answers. So that was a very quick little thing to get to that phrase, but maybe for some of you it didn't come up so easily. So we want to learn how to ask the question, because in the question is the answer. And because you are the same as these fields, if you ask these fields through your body, your question, it will always give you the truth. In other words, the body never lies. It doesn't have the capacity. It doesn't have that programming. It only can tell you the truth. And by truth is what makes you stronger. So a lot of times when we're trying to figure out the answer to a question, we kind of go into that sort of dopamine. Does it give me the dopamine burst of like, good, yeah, that's fun, yeah. But that could be passionate and juicy and exciting, but it might not be the thing that makes you stronger in your life. So how does tuning in to this field, these fields, how does that save your life, heal your life, change your life? So you've all probably had an inner voice telling you something at some point. And I always ask this in my classes. Has anyone in here ever had an intuition? And everybody's hand goes up. And I say, has anyone ever had an intuition that you haven't listened to? And everybody's hands go up, and they kind of do this a little bit. The hands go up, the heads go down. And I say, has anyone ever had a good outcome from that? And no hands go up in the room. So there's this knowing that you know when this intuition comes that you should listen to it. But we don't always do that. So for those of you who know me or have studied with me or read my books, you know that I'm a big skier. I ski as much as I possibly can. And every day that I go skiing, at some point during the day, no matter what's going on, it could be a bluebird, beautiful day, I could be feeling strong and healthy. At some point during the day, I get a voice in my head, crystal clear, that says, get off the mountain now. Sometimes it's fierce like that. Sometimes it's just like, time to go. Either way, it's crystal clear, this voice that says, leave the mountain now. And I've left in the middle of like an epic powder day when everyone's just having a great time and the snow's amazing. And I had that voice and I'm like, okay, time to go. So I go. I have a really good friend that I ski with often. And it was one of those epic powder days and we skied a bunch together. And then I left. And I talked with her later and she told me this story. So we'd been skiing a lot and hard that day and she was tired. And she went up to the summit one more time and she had a voice in her head that said, you need to go home now, it's time. And she bumped into another friend of hers who said, oh, come do a lap with me out in the canyon. So that's in the backcountry. When you leave the ski area, you are on your own. There's no ski patrol that will come after you if you get into trouble. A matter of fact, there's a skull and crossbones at the string line when you leave because people die out in the backcountry all the time. So her ski buddy said, let's go. They had all their backcountry gear. So they went and they started skiing out in the backcountry. Halfway down the run, she hit something, double ejected from her skis and went head down into a tree well. And that's where people die, when they go head down into a tree well, because you suffocate. You can't turn yourself around. You can't dig yourself out. Thankfully, her ski partner was a really good ski partner and had been watching her, which is what you're supposed to do, and had seen her fall and still skied up and was looking around and couldn't see anything. And she heard this very muffled cry through the woods, which is also nearly impossible. And she skied a little further and she saw a pole sticking up and she got out her shovel and she dug my friend out of the tree well and saved her life. So it was just a prime example to me of listening to your intuition. Now, we don't have any percentages or studies that show what's the percentage of good or bad that happens to you if you do or don't listen to your intuition. We only have anecdotal studies on that. But for me, the anecdotes are strong enough. And so if she had listened to that and gone home and never had that experience, and then she would have thought, well, why did my intuition tell me to go home? Because everything was fine. So we don't have that way of knowing what would have happened, right? So it's just the idea of really trusting yourself. And then the question comes up, well, why don't you listen to your intuition all the time? And I found there to be kind of two things. The first is, I don't want to. I want to go skiing. I want to eat that other piece of chocolate cake. I want to date that guy that everybody said, do not date that guy, right? So it's like, I just don't want to listen to that intuition. And the other one that I hear most often is, I didn't really believe that it was my intuition. I wasn't sure because I have so many voices in my head. How do I know which one is my intuition and which one is my grandma who used to yell at me all the time, or my school teacher that used to tell me I was, not smart, and like all these voices are still banging around my head. How do I know which one is my intuition? And I remember that was the case for me too. I used to have so many voices in my head that I just didn't know what to trust. But what if you could? What if you could really trust that you knew an intuition and that it was guiding you always towards strength? And then imagine if we all, on a collective level, did this, if we all tuned into our intuition and all followed their directives, just think how different the world would be right now if we were moving towards goodness and health and healing and compassion and community. The effects would be enormous globally. And what I find really inspiring is that this is going on. There are a lot of movements and a lot of people that are following their own intuition and then taking that into a wider web and creating movements. One of my favorite examples of that is Dr. Zach Bush, who used to study how to create new chemotherapies. And he was on the cutting edge with that. And he left that field. And again, guided by his intuition, even when he thought can't be right. I'm going to a food desert in Virginia to study microbiome. That just doesn't make sense at all. But he followed his intuition. And he started this nonprofit called Farmer's Footprint. And what he's doing is going out into middle America, into the heartland, where they have been poisoning the fields for generations now with glyphosates, which is increasing cancers and autisms, under the false belief by Monsanto and other corporations, GMOs, that they would increase their yields. The truth is actually that their yields have been going down. They've been losing money year after year after year and are now indentured servants to the banks. And worse than that is their own healths have been declining, as well as the health of their children and their communities. So what Dr. Bush has done is gone into these communities, and he's doing this pilot program right now, regenerative agriculture. And he's discovered in one season, these soils regenerate. And what's been happening is once they go back into these sort of more ancient agricultural techniques, their yields have been going through the roof. So financially, the farmers are doing far better than the lie that they were sold about GMOs. But not only that, their health is improving, the health of their children is improving, the health of their communities is improving. So this is an example of just one person followed his intuition and then started a movement to start to change and heal the world. And the work that he's doing is unbelievably powerful and necessary for all of us. So there's so many examples of that, of people starting movements based on their own intuition and really healing the world. And each one of us can be part of that. You have the ability to change the world. It's incredibly powerful. You think that you're just one drop in the ocean, but you also are the ocean. Okay, so how do you do it? Let's do it. It's a 3-step process that I'm going to share with you. The first is to get the right question. The second is to ask the body. And the third is to increase your courage so that you can follow. So we'll start with number 1. Ask the right question. So what you need to do in this step is turn whatever issue you're dealing with into a yes or no question. And if you're dealing with a large issue, you need to kind of winnow it down so that it's, break it down into its smallest component. So if your issue is my career or my love life or my health, that's a huge thing. You want to break it down into smaller and smaller yes or no questions. So maybe I should call this doctor, yes or no. I should join Bumble, yes or no. I should send my resume to this headhunter, yes or no. So you break things down into smaller, even to like, I should make this phone call. So breaking it down into smaller and smaller bits. That's the first piece. And that can take a lot of time. Don't just, race that one off and say, okay, I got it. Even if your question, you might already know what it is, but really take some time to sit with it and break that down into even smaller components of it so that you can really get the essence of what this is. So the second part is to ask the body. So I know most of you are Sounds True devotees, and probably a huge percentage of you meditate, which is amazing. And that is a real powerful way to tap in and to hear your intuition and to hear those guidance and those voices. I know for me personally, and I've been meditating, not like some of you guys, but I've been meditating for about 20 years now. And I still consider it the most difficult part of my yoga practice. I do it, and I know and again, I'm a scientist minded, so I know all of the studies, and I know what it's doing to my gray matter, and I know all of the things. And yet it's the hardest thing for me to practice, and it's the hardest thing for me to feel the results of, although I can see them in more of a gauzy way. I can certainly see the results of my asana practice and my even my bhakti practice or my karma yoga practice. I see that much more clearly. My meditation practice is not so clear to me all the time. So, and again, for those of you that study with me, you know I'm always looking for an easy way out. So what if there was an easier way to tap into your intuition? And of course, there is. And it's with energy testing or kinesiology. And I'm going to teach you one way to do that right now, and it's called the human pendulum. So you're literally going to make your body into a pendulum, into the wisdom aspect of the body where you can ask any question and get that answer. So I'll show you how to do it. And I'm actually going to stand up and I'll give you a full body view here. And we're going to start with the wake up, which I'll teach you again when we come to the third component. But the first thing that you want to do is get your energies aligned and working together so that they're not so scattered. So we'll do this little piece. And again, if you study with me, you know that this is the foundation of getting your energies to work for you, getting more organized so that you're not rowing upstream. So you're going to find your collarbones and drop into these hollows right below them. And we're going to breathe in the nose and out the mouth and start to thump here. And this is basically the on button of your body, getting your energies moving forward. And then you go right over the sternum and the center of the chest. Same breath pattern in the nose and out the mouth. This stimulates your immune system, helps keep you healthy and strong. Good, and then right at the bra line there on the side of the body, you're going to tap here, and that same breath in the nose and out the mouth. These are points to help integrate information and digest substances as well as experiences. One more breath here. Shake it up. And then the last thump is right under the eyes on the cheekbone, a little bit lighter here. And this helps to ground your energy in the nose and out the mouth. Good. Shake off your hands. And you're going to march in place. And you can do this sitting down in a chair or standing up. You're just going to tap the same arm to the same leg, just 2 or 3 times. And that same breath in the nose and out the mouth. Good. And shake your hands off and now cross it over so that you're crossing your energies from one side of the body to the other, from one hemisphere of the brain to operate the opposite side of the body. And we always want to do a few more of the crossings. We'll end with that. Shake it off. And then bring your hands over your pubic bone. You can be touching the body or slightly off the body. And turn your attention inwards. And this is a time where you can set an intention So as we're about to do this testing, your intention might be, I understand how to energy test. I get easy, positive results. Inhale, draw it right up the front of the body. And then exhale and smooth your hands down out into your field. We'll do that 2 more times. Draw it right up the front of your body. Exhale. One last time. And the last thing we'll do, just to get all that to stay, 1 finger in your belly button, 1 finger in your third eye, press in and pull up in 3 breaths, in the nose and out the mouth. Shake it up. Okay. It's going to tilt this a little more. I want to make sure that you can see my whole body here. Okay. So what you're going to do now is the whole body becomes this pendulum. And the first step, and this is something that you're going to practice a lot before you start asking questions about if you should leave your job or leave your marriage, right? You're not going to do this tonight and change your whole life. So you're going to start to practice this. And the first thing that you're going to do is just your hands are empty and they're right on the high belly, right under the rib cage. And what we're going to do first is get ourselves a strong yes and a strong no. So you'll stand, take a deep breath, and ask for a yes to lead you forward. And feel yourself slightly lean forward to almost you fall. And then what you're going to do is ask yourself a yes question that has the positive answer. So you're just going to say to yourself your name. So you can say it out loud or in your head. I'll say my name is Lauren, and I fall forward. And then I want to get a no. So I'll say, my name is Minnie Mouse. And I'm going to fall backwards. And what you're going to do is you're going to practice that 25, 50, 100 times until you feel a solid yes in the body and a solid no in the body. You can use the day of the week or the month or anything that is an absolute yes so that you start to get that feeling in your body. You'll take a deep breath. And you start to have this internal truth that tells you what is a yes and what is a no. And then you can start to play with other things. And what's easier than to start again with, should I leave my job, is to start with some substances. So I brought a few things just to play with. Unfortunately, I didn't have anything smaller in my house, alcohol-wise, but I can't drink alcohol. For some reason, I can't metabolize it. So I keep trying and I keep failing because I really can't. So I have this organic, organic Prosecco, and see if I can try this. But I already know that it's not going to work for me, but I'm still going to try it. So if you take a substance and you're just going to hold it right up against your low belly, your high belly, and you're going to take that breath. And even I just held it in my hands before I even took the breath, and I was already going backwards because my body's just like, no, please do not put that into me. It is going to be poison. I have some coffee here. Again, any of you that have taken classes with me know on the rare occasion I drink coffee, I always apologize to my students because it does not do good things for me. So let's see what it says today. Okay, it had a moment there. I was like, maybe we're going to be good today, but ultimately it was not going to be good. And then let's see something I'm pretty sure is going to be good. I have an organic avocado. And sure enough, it's like your body falls into it. It wants that. And so you can test all kinds of things this way, and then you can start to test your questions as well. And what I always suggest is a couple of things. First of all, if you've got a really strong mind, which we all do, and we want to overcome and say, I want that Prosecco, even though it's not going to feel good for me, of course you can force yourself to lean forward. And it might be difficult to put your Prosecco in a little bag here, but I often will put substances in a little bag and hold it here. So I don't know what it is, but I can kind of not get my mind in it, or get to take my mind out of it. Because, right, your mind lies, but the body doesn't lie. And then with your questions, you can write your questions down on a piece of paper. And then fold it up. And I had a friend that was like, can I write 10 questions down? And so she was going to have all of her questions, and then she would just have a yes pile and a no pile, so that she could ask all of her questions and not, again, have her mind be inside deciding, oh, I know what that question is going to be, so I already know what I want the answer to be. Well, you write it down, and then you've got your yes, no pile, and then you open it up, and it's like, sure enough, yep, don't date that guy that everybody said not to date. I kind of knew that was going to fall in the no pile. So it's just a really beautiful way to start to tune in, again, to that intuition of the body. Let's see, I'll come back here. And there's other ways to energy test as well. And I give some examples in my book, The Energy Medicine Yoga Prescription. Donna Eden has some beautiful techniques in her book as well. So if you really want to learn how to do this, it works really well with a partner, but I have spent so much of my life alone that I always want techniques that I can do by myself. So make sure that you really get that yes or no in the body firmly before you start to ask these questions. And you will see that time and again. And the reason I really like to start with substances is because you can get immediate feedback. So do the test and don't listen to the test. So fall away from the Prosecco and drink it and get a headache. And there's your biofeedback. Okay, no, I wasn't supposed to do that. My body knew, but my mind overrode that. And so you can really start to exercise your intuition muscle, because it really is a muscle like anything else. The more you practice and the more you listen to it and respond to it, the louder it will get. It will really start to tell you all the time what to do. And then you don't need to do the pendulum test anymore. But it's a really beautiful way to start. And especially when you have difficult questions or situations, if you've got a health crisis going on, it's really hard. There's so much information in so many different areas, how to make the right decision. And so this energy testing can really allow you to just let the wisdom of your body decide. So the third piece is having the courage to act. Because as soon as you get the answer, there's going to be a million voices internally and externally telling you why you shouldn't do that or why you should do it anyway. And so we really need to be able to do the right thing. So how do we do that? And I want to show you a little practice to help you raise your courage. And part of that is releasing your fear, right? So we don't want to be the one that stands out. We don't want to be alone at the start of something. We're a tribe and a herd mentality. Human beings need each other. And to step outside of that, to make a choice or a decision that's going to leave you outside, leave you vulnerable, you really need to be able to release that fear so that you can do what your intuition has just told you to do, especially if it's something that's life-changing, leaving your job or leaving your relationship or doing something, like Dr. Bush, leaving his incredibly well-funded position at a research hospital to go out into a place of total unknown. And how is he going to support his family? It takes a lot of courage. So let's do this little practice. And the first thing we're going to do, again, is that wake up. We'll do it a little bit faster now that you know it, but we'll start with that because anytime you're going to do anything, you want to get the energies of your body working with you. So we'll start with the 4 thumps and breathe in the nose. Then go to the center of the chest on the thymus. Then to the spleen points, right at the side, lower ribs there. Shake it off. And right under the eyes on the cheekbones. Shake it off. And now same thing, same hand to same leg, just a few times. Good, and then shake that off and cross it over. And same breath, in the nose and out the mouth. One more. Good, shake it off. Hands to the low body, pubic bone. It can be on the body or off. And you're going to set your intention now. And maybe it's to increase your courage or your stability, or just to be joyful in your choices. Inhale, drop right up the front of the body. And exhale, smooth it wide, right onto your field. Do it again. One last time. And shake it up. Now we're going to do a few things to get our energies to be on the same page. So we're going to do what's called the belt flow, which unites the top of the body to the lower body and helps to move emotions that can be stuck around the body. So you're going to reach your hands as far to the right waist as you can. Inhale, pull across to the left. Over to the right waist, inhale, pull across to the left. One more time. Pull across to the left, and now smooth down the outside of the left foot, leg, and off the foot as far as you can reach. If you can't get all the way down to your foot, that's okay. And come back up, and we'll reach around to the left waist as far as you can. Inhale, and pull across to the right waist. Go to the left, inhale, pull across. One more time, inhale, pull across and smooth down the outside of the right leg all the way, if you can, off the pinky toe and shake off your hands. We're going to do one more prep pose. It's called the Wayne Cook. So you're going to cross. Let's all do the left leg at the same time so we're on the same page. What this does is it gets all of your meridian energies connected to each other so that you're not so scattered. So the left leg is crossed over. You're going to cross your hands at the wrists, and you're going to hold one hand onto the ankle and one hand onto the bottom of the foot. I'm actually going to have my hand under. So I have my right hand holding the left ankle and my left hand holding the bottom of the left foot. So does that make sense? You can see here, and I've got, so my wrists are crossed. And you're going to inhale and pull your legs slightly off across, and exhale, release it back down. And you don't have to pull up very far. You can just lean back if you can't pull your leg up. One more. Good, release and switch sides. Now the right leg will cross over the left. The left hand will hold the ankle and the right hand will hold the foot so that the wrists are also crossed. And we'll do the same thing. Inhale, pull up and away. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Put that foot down. Tent your fingers. Bring the thumbs to the third eye. Inhale. Exhale, smooth the thumbs across to the temples and then curl the fingers into the center of the forehead. Inhale. Exhale, pull the fingers out to the temples and shake them off. Okay. Now we get to the part of transforming that fear into courage. So again, you can do this sitting in a chair. If you want to squat down on the floor, you can do that as well. You can lie on your back and hug your knees into your chest. What you're going to do is wrap one hand around your knees, or both if you want to, and you're just going to hug yourself into a little bit of a ball and drop your head. So you can imagine and you can feel it in your body right now that this is a fearful pose. This is the protective pose, holding yourself tight together. Nobody can see me. Nobody can hurt me. You're going to hold that pose. The head is dropped. Inhale here and lift your head up. And then like you're blowing out a candle, just blow out your lips. So what that does is it activates this courageous aspect. And the idea of blowing out the candle, it's like you're no longer afraid of the dark because you have the light within you. Let's do that 3 times. Drop the head, hug your body small. Inhale. Lift the head up. 2 more times. Okay, so now you've released that fear and you've increased your courage. Now you're going to really bring up your courage. So just like we did at the beginning, but we're going to do it even more. You're going to make fists out of your hands and you're going to give yourself the Tarzan thumb. And that's what those guys are doing in the jungle, is increasing their courage. And that same breath. Shake it off. And just that breath alone, you can just do that breath. If you're about to go on stage and give your big presentation. And the last thing you're going to do is that hook up again to just keep all of this in the body. So 1 finger in the belly button, 1 finger in the third eye. Press in and pull up, and 3 of those same courageous breaths. Shake it off. And just sit for a moment and just feel how you feel. And So that is your practice for increasing your courage. So learning how to ask the question, asking into the wisdom of the body, and then increasing your courage so that you can trust and make strong choices. And what happens then is you enter into the morphic field, and your choices affect those around you, because that is how energy works. If you flip the polarity of a magnet, the one next to it flips the other way. It is how energy works. The field is alive, and you receive from it and you give to it. So that is the yogic idea of healing yourself heals the world. It is a very powerful and altruistic act. It is not at all selfish. It is the most generous thing that you can do, is to make those choices that strengthen yourself and strengthen your family and your community and your neighborhood and your country and your world, because we are all in the same ocean. And what I love about all of these scientists who are proving this reality that the yogis have known for thousands of years is that it takes it out of the realm of hope and it brings it into the field of fact. I'm not hopeful that my actions are going to change the world. I know that my actions do change the world. And I get that feedback constantly. And it's not because I have a couple of books out there and I teach a lot of people and they contact me. It's not that. It's that I'm tuned in to how my actions reverberate into the world, just like you can be tuned in to how your actions reverberate into the world. You are more powerful than you've ever imagined. Your actions matter. And once you join the flow of positive actions, you finally understand what it means to be the change. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Though, at the end of those practices, I definitely felt stronger and more present. And, one of the first things that struck me in that presentation was that the wisdom of the body is in the field. I mean, after that beautiful breakdown of how truly porous and spacious we are existing in this field, it brought so many things to light. And I want to talk a little bit about how we can impact that field, because if all of our information is already there and sort of coming to us to manifest through the body, and if we're sending material into it, how can we best attend to what we're putting in? I mean, especially when we're early in this practice and not yet fully entrained in the way of watching our thoughts and watching our responses to life. What do you suggest we do in those very early stages?
That's a beautiful question. And I think you almost sort of answered it in the asking of it, when you're not yet used to tuning into those voices and hearing and watching your own thoughts. But that is part of the beginning steps of any kind of consciousness practice, is to see yourself. And to see, and I teach this, I teach a lot of yoga teachers, and we're always doing a practice called svadhyaya, which is self-study, which is, how do I affect other people in the world? How am I in the world? And it's really interesting if you start to, just in very small ways, notice that and start to watch. And you can do it consciously. You can make a choice. I'm going to smile at a stranger and see what happens, right? So you don't have to just be constantly almost self-critical every moment, like what's happening, because that can be overwhelming. But just notice, when I do one thing, what is the effect that happens there? And it's really lovely to do with a positive effect, like smiling at a stranger. But you can also notice it when maybe an argument is coming, right? Your daughter called you from school and said, or the school called you and said your daughter's at school today, right? So when she shows up, there's going to be some stuff is going to go down. So you can just say to yourself, okay, I wonder if first you feel how you feel. I am so angry. I just don't even know what to do with myself. Well, you can first do a blowout. Right? So you get your energy moving out, and then you just see, okay, I'm going to yell at her, and then I'm going to see what happens. And it does take a little bit of a critical awareness. But I would back up even a step further, even as I'm saying this. The easiest ways to start to positively affect the fields without having all of this deeper knowledge or self-awareness is a long practice, lifetime practice. If you start to do these simple energy techniques, they start to change you, and then you start to change the fields around you. So just like you said, you felt stronger doing that practice. I did too. I thought to myself, why didn't I do this whole practice right before this talk? I feel so courageous right now. I should have done that before. But you feel that, and that feeling does resonate out from you. And it's a resonance, it's a vibration, and that vibration goes into the field and starts to change it. So you don't have to have a mindfulness practice or a svadhyaya practice. If you just do the wake up every day, and that is a feedback I get a lot from people. All I've done is the wake up, and X, Y, and Z is changing in my life. Because all you are is energy. So if you start to get your energy aligned and organized, it starts to change you. And so maybe you don't yell at your daughter when she comes home from school because your energies are aligned and in coherence. And so she comes home and you say, was there a reason that you didn't want to go to school today? And she starts crying, oh my God, I had this huge exam and I didn't study for it. Or this bully I knew was going to be there and he said he was going to beat me up today and I was too scared. And all of a sudden there's some space for a communication to happen. All because you were just doing a little bit of energy work and you were more coherent. And so it gave space for someone else to be more coherent in their honesty.
Well, so Lauren, let's unpack alignment for a minute here, because what is it that we are aligning to? Are we aligning in the sense that all of our energy centers, like I'm imagining the chakra system, right? And everything is like stacked and perfectly spinning or glowing or whatever? Or is it that I'm aligned to my highest and best or the universal one? Or is it all the same thing? Or am I overthinking this? What do we mean? I want to get it right.
No, that's a great question. And really the answer is both. I mean, when you are in alignment, you are in alignment with your own self. So what that means is you're not, if you've ever seen those pictures of a lot of Rolfing people have them on their cards, right? So there'll be a picture of a body that's like the head's forward and the back, and they're all out of alignment. And then after you do their technique, you're in alignment. So, but that happens energetically as well. So you talked about your chakras. Those can be, some of them, chakra, that's a big system to jump right into, but they can be unaligned, they can be out, they can be closed, they can be too small or too big, all of the different layers of them. Even your auric field can be disconnected from the physical body, or it can be collapsed into the physical body. So all of your energy systems also have the potential to be out of their most cohesive way of being. So, I mean, you think about it, driving down the road, if there's an accident, all of a sudden all the cars back up, or if there's a snowstorm and people have slid off the road and all of a sudden there's chaos instead of just a smooth flow of cars back and forth. That's same how it is in your body. You want a smooth flow of energy, and your body knows which ways the streets are one way and which way are roundabouts and all of that. And so when it's in alignment, it's doing all of those patterns without any interference from you. But we can easily go out of alignment from a myriad of things, eating food that's not good for you, having an argument with somebody, any kind of toxic substance or experience can throw you out of alignment. And then you just take it up, the ladder of experiences or situations that can really throw you out of your body or mind or spirit, and that affect the energies as well. But then you are correct that we are also in alignment with the planet. And there is a polarity of the planet, and we have a polarity, and that is in alignment, so that when we walk on the earth, we have negative to positive, so that we get this movement. And, one of the big problems, especially if you have any kind of health challenge going on, is that you are not getting the beneficial energies, positive electrons or negative electrons, from the earth. And that is because we don't walk around barefoot anymore. And I'm sure you've heard about the earthing movement. It's a huge thing that's going on, and rightly so, because walking barefoot on the earth realigns you to the polarity of the earth, so that you can get that sun energy comes down through the crown, through the body, and grounds, and then the earth energy comes up through the feet, up through the top of the body, and actually cascades over you and goes back down to the earth. So you are in alignment with the earth as well. And when you're disconnected from the earth, ungrounded, which started to happen more and more after World War II, when we started wearing plastic on the bottom of our feet instead of leather, we had this incredible rise in illnesses and all kinds of diseases, as well as mental diseases, because we're no longer connected to our life force energy, which comes from the earth. So it's a both and you really need both. You need to be grounded. You need to be connected to the planet, to the earth itself. And there's ways to do that, even if you live in a skyrise. And I can share some of those if you want, but you need to have both. You need to have your energies aligned, and you need to be and want to be aligned with the earth energies.
Well, and so, yes, please share.
Yeah, so the easiest, I wonder if I have my little traveling bag with me right here, and if it's good, I'll have it in there, and it is. So I travel wherever I go with a stainless steel spoon. I actually got this in Colorado. My favorite aunt gave this to me. I saw it in her kitchen. I was like, can I have that? She's like, oh, I have to give you everything you asked for, so you give it to you. So you want a stainless steel spoon. Silver will not work. And all you'll do, and I'm going to roll away again, is, and I saw your face, why doesn't silver work? Because it needs to be able to hold a magnet to it. Because what you're doing is you're changing your magnetic polarity. I mean, we are energetic, and we are magnetic, and we are gravitational, and we are electric. And so we have to keep all of those systems going. So all you do is you take the back of your spoon and you rub it all over the bottom of your feet. I don't know if you can see that. That's it. So I travel with that when I'm on the airplane. People think I'm weird, but I don't care. You just put that on the bottom of your feet. And if you live in a high rise and you can't get down to the earth, or it's winter and it's freezing cold out and there's 10 feet of snow out, then that will correct your polarity so that you can stay grounded.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering too, like, there's so much in there about how we are so very different than our conceptions or concepts or ideas about ourselves. In what ways can we start to foster a broader sense of our own expansiveness, because it's one thing to do the practices and like we were both saying, we felt stronger. But in those moments where we're like, ramping up into the practices, just to be able to acknowledge that we are much more. What are some ways that are like low-hanging fruit for us to just start incorporating that new idea of who we are fundamentally as human beings or as celestial beings or both?
Yeah, no, that's a huge question and really beautiful. I think some really simple things to do. Again, if you can get outside and if you can get your bare feet on the ground, there is a pose that's called heaven rushing in. And I'll see if I can do it here and you can see. I'm sitting down, but you can do it sitting down or standing up. And you have your arms, palms open up, and lift the head up to the sky. And after a while, you can start to feel energy in your hands. And what that energy slides right down into the heart center. And this is a pose that you can use in two ways. One way is to ask for guidance and assistance, which is why it's so lovely to do outside. You can really gaze up at the heavens or the sky. And the other thing to do is to offer up your own gratitude. And you can do this for as long as you want. We do this in a lot of my yoga classes. And what you can do after you're complete is just weave your hands back and forth. I mentioned that figure 8 pattern is the most powerful healing pattern. Just weave your arms back and forth and then let them come to rest on the heart. And both of those practices, either asking for help or offering up your gratitude, are both ways to start to see yourself in a larger context. So this surrender pose of, I don't have all the answers, I need some help. And there is a whole universe out there that has answers and has help. So maybe some of that can come down to me. It's incredibly humbling and uplifting at the same time. And the other piece of offering up your gratitude, this is a very heart-centering pose. So the energy is both coming down the arms to the heart and also from the heart up to the arms and out the hands. And the practice alone of gratitude is one of the most powerful practices that you can do to change your life. The effects that it has have now been well documented. Health outcomes, social outcomes that increase hugely just by the act of gratitude. And we do this, we have part of our work is to do a 30-day gratitude journal, and 3 gratitudes a day, and they have to be different all the time. And to really tap into this feeling, we are so blessed. This Sounds True community, all of you watching, we are so blessed beyond the beyond. Even with the struggles that some of us have, and all of us have struggles, even with those, and some of us have really intense, serious things going on in our lives, and still we are blessed beyond the beyond. And so it's particularly helpful, even in a very dark and challenging moment, to find something to be grateful for. It's like a little tendril, a little bubble up through the water to the top, to burst open. It's a little bit of photosynthesis in the dark that starts to connect you to, you're not grateful in a vacuum. You're not living here in a vacuum. There are so many forces that are here supporting you and helping you and witnessing you. And so tapping into that, I think, really starts to make you feel, to allow you to feel that inner connection. So that it's really, it's a prayer. It's a prayer of asking and being able to receive, because that can be really difficult for a lot of us, and offering as well. So we're asking and offering and asking and offering. And I think that starts to make us feel this connection, and I keep saying make, but really allow us to feel this connection. And really, even more and more since doing this practice that Donna witnessed, I mean, doing any kind of practice in community, you can feel it even if you're just practicing with one other person. Even if you're just practicing, a lot of times my dog is right on the yoga mat with me, and I feel a difference when he's there to when he's not there. And so having other creatures, whether they be human or animal, with you on some practices, again, starts to, what we want to do is sort of let this ego idea start to fade away a little bit more. And as that fades, we start to feel this connection to all.
Mm-hmm. You know, you answered a question that was coming up for me just a moment ago, because you mentioned social outcomes and how we can be in community and develop these practices and really cultivate these practices together. I was going to ask about a go-to in a moment of maybe feeling a sense of overwhelm, because socially and culturally, you know, we have the blessing and the downside of social media and the internet. And like one of those upsides is that we are able to have this lovely conversation and instruction. Another one is that, you know, a lot of times we feel maybe isolated or alienated because of just being bombarded with so much information, and a lot of it negative or sensational. Do you have, among the practices that you shared, or any other that might be in your toolbox, something that we could go to in a moment of overwhelm when we just need to kind of come to a sense of centeredness or alignment or just peace in a moment?
I do. And I'm so excited that you asked that, because it's one of the ones that I'm going to share two with you that I share the most often, because we do live in an overwhelming world. Even the good. I mean, sometimes I'm scrolling through Facebook and those ones about the people that help the trapped animal, and I'm like sobbing. And even though it's a beautiful story, it's like, okay, now that's my energy system for the next chunk of time. And so I do think it's important. Before I show them to you, I just want to say, I think it's really valuable to seriously, not just to say, oh, I'm going to do that. And we did the habit tap. So if you really like this idea, please take it. But to seriously spend some time disconnecting from all of that, from the social media, from the regular media, from the online classes. I know that that's where we are right now, but even from that, to come back to who you are. We are in such a culture of busyness and over excitability all the time that the body never gets to settle. And so it's sort of like a soda that you shake up and then you open the lid and it blows up. And that's what we see happening around us all the time. And we don't ever get a chance for those bubbles to settle. And so I think it's really important to take either a full day off. I know people that take a few weeks off. And it's funny because I've done that as well. And you come back and you're like, what did I miss? You didn't miss anything. You didn't miss anything because you are with you. There's no missing anything. You are here right now. So I want to share with you two things that literally in a moment can bring you back from the edge of any kind of stress. The first one is just placing your hand over your forehead. These are called the frontal neurovascular reflex points. And what it does is it keeps the blood in the forebrain. So when you have any kind of shock or overwhelm, you go into a fight or flight response. What happens is the blood leaves the forebrain, goes into the limbs to prepare you to fight or to flee. And you lose your ability to think critically and creatively and to act with compassion and intelligence. And so just putting your hand over your forehead keeps the blood in your forebrain so that you can be in the moment and think. And this has also been used to reprogram stress responses. So if you had prior stresses that every time you think about it again, it puts you into a stress response, if you hold your hand here, you can start to reprogram. It actually reprograms the response in the amygdala so that you can start to release those triggers and be present. So that's one of them. Right here in the hollow at the throat, right where the collarbones meet, there's a little hollow. It's called the sternal notch. If you put 2 fingers there, it's the same thing. It's that habit field that we talked about earlier is also, interestingly enough, responsible for the fight or flight response in the body. And this point here, if you hold 2 fingers there, it also calms that fight or flight response. And what I love about this one is I'm often wearing a necklace. I see you have a very beautiful one on as well. You can just be holding the bead on your necklace while you're talking with somebody, and they don't need to know that you are freaking out and stressing out and trying to keep yourself in your body. And if it's really intense, you can do both of them at the same time. And I'll often be on the phone with somebody that's really triggering to me, and I'll be like this. They don't know that my hand's on my forehead, or driving in the car, especially in a big city, have my finger here. Done that in LA many a day. So those 2 things, and it's amazing. I encourage you to write those down and sticky note those up for yourself. But next time you have a stress response, if you can remember it, and that's the thing, because when you have a stress response, you often forget anything that you might have known. But it will change your life. It will change your life. Once again, changing your life. All of these energy techniques, they're so simple, and they literally transform the energy in your body so that you can be in this crazy, overwhelming, chaotic, and beautiful, magnificent, awe-inspiring world. And stay with yourself centered and grounded and doing your dharmic path, doing your work in the world, and bringing your light and your gifts forth, because we need them all. We need everybody's gifts. And so we need you to be healthy and strong and making the right choices and doing the right thing. Do the right thing. We all have to just do the right thing. I had to say it.
Okay. Lauren Walker, this has been a tremendous session. Thank you so very much. Wow.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I love talking with you.
Oh my gosh. I feel the same way about you. I'm like, we could go on. We could go on. Yeah. I need you to live like near me, or like I need to live near you or something.
I'm only a flight away from you. Okay.
Thank you so very much, and Mary much too. How about that? Mary Joyfield.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you.
Oh, we also want to thank all of you who joined us for today's session. Please note, the recording of this session will remain accessible for free for 24 hours. And if you wish, you can purchase the entire summit with lifetime access to each recording, transcripts from each session, and bonus gifts from our presenters. For Sounds True, I'm Christy Peoples with Lauren Walker and lots of energy medicine. SoundsTrue.com, waking up the world.